Good morning. And how's everybody in this wonderful morning? Well, we're going to do a little bit about compassion today, a little bit different of a way of presenting it. The theme for the month is compassion, of course, and the affirmation is I behold the Christ in myself and in others. So after we do the talk today and you do some thinking about it, try that on for size and work with it because you're going to need it. Compassion defined is sorrow for the sufferings or trouble of another or others, accompanied by an urge to help, deep sympathy, pity, a feeling of distress and pity for the suffering or misfortune of others, often including the desire to alleviate it. So that's what the formal idea of a compassion is. I'm going to start with something that Ernest Holmes said in The Science of Mind. And he said, we have a beautiful story in the life of Jesus which shows his great compassion and love for humanity. And that story is the healing of the centurion servant. And it's really indicative of a model of how we need to approach circumstances and situations in other people in lives and confronting our own opinions about it. But the centurion servant, or the centurion had heard that Jesus was coming to town. And when he did, he went right to him and he asked him, he said, beseeched him, he said, Lord, my servant lies at home sick of palsy and he's grievously tormented. Basically, he was dying. And of course, Jesus said, well, I'll come and heal him. I'll come and heal him. And then the centurion said, Lord, I'm not worthy of having someone of your stature under my roof. And also, I'm not just a centurion. I have a lot of soldiers and under me, and I'm a man of authority in that. And basically the story is, well, you know how it is. And Jesus said, yeah. So Jesus, when he heard this, he was marveled and said unto them that followed him, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great a faith as this. Because he didn't want him to come and touch him or do anything magical. He knew the power of Jesus' word. And folks, the real idea here is you don't have to be present in order to be a practitioner and help facilitate an opportunity for healing. It's not required. It can be absent. It requires belief, faith, and compassion. And so Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so it will be done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the same hour. Okay, it works like that. And I've had experiences myself where that's happened with practitioner work and the healing that happens either right away or down the line. And it's just using the same system that Jesus did. But it's the ultimate is the compassion. He had to move beyond this guy not being just a soldier. He was one of the top dogs. He ran the show. And these are the guys that were against him. You see, and that's what we got to look at today, folks. We got a lot of this stuff going on. I'm going to just do a sidebar here. We got a lot of that stuff going on right now with all the protests and things like that we're going across the country. And it's creating a divisiveness between people that were together before. That's got to stop. Don't matter what our opinions are. We're all entitled to have our opinions. And we've got to work to resolve situations like this from compassion from each other. Easy to say, harder to do, obviously, we can see that. But our job as individuals here, our job is to add that compassion and move beyond our own positions. For everybody, both sides, and the ones that are in the middle, even the radicals. I mean the hardcore guys. So we've got to do that, and we got to take this as a model that Jesus taught us. And of course, there's no use even talking about compassion and what you're going to do for anybody else until you get down to the root of it. You can't have compassion for other people any greater than you've got compassion for yourself. Oh, you could do things and say, I'm doing compassionate things. Look at all I'm doing. That's got nothing to do with what you're doing, folks. It's got to do with what you are when you're doing it, you see. And that's what we got to get really in tune with. And so we start by, how do you start the day? Do you run into the bathroom, whip your robe off, and stand there in the full-length mirror, naked as the day you come into this world, saying, "Good morning, God"? Or do you say, "Good God, morning"? Okay, it's kind of amusing, but the truth is, we got to really pay attention to that and to how we treat ourselves, and we got to learn to have compassion with ourselves before we can have compassion with others. And people say, well, I have compassion with myself. I do that. And I'm going to call that one. I won't tell you what I'll call it, but I'll call it because I'll tell you where you got to start. It's not in anything that you say or do. It's got to start where you think about yourself. And how do you treat yourself when you do something like a bonehead? Anybody done something like a bonehead and say, oh, you got to forgive yourself and it's okay and have compassion for it? That's where we got to start. And that's not the easy road. And the road, I say, to salvation is through self-acceptance and forgiveness. And, generally, we are not really as bad as we think we are. Some people are, but most of us aren't. Okay? We think we're a lot worse than that. And so what do we say to ourselves? Put ourselves down, all that nitpicking, all that negativity. And don't worry, folks, everybody does it. I've been doing this for 43 years, and I still do it. But every now and again, you get an opportunity to take a personal development lesson that is not something that you go register in. You're going to take it whether you like it or not. And it costs. So I want to just give you a little idea about how I do these talks and things like that. I knew a month ago that I was going to do this talk, and I put the caption in and everything, and I just leave it. Okay, I leave it and settle and see what comes to me about experiences I've had and how it comes, or something usually comes up. And lo and behold, I had an experience that I really didn't share with anybody, just Anna, because I felt not good about it. And I had to work my way through it. Anna helped me. I registered for a personal development course that cost me $1,100. But I didn't pay a registration fee. What I did was I had an envelope with 11 $100 bills in it in my pocket. And I went early morning shopping to Safeway, and I got out, and when I went in the store, I reached in to get my list out and stuff like that and wandered around, and when I got home, there was no envelope there. $1,100 was gone. So I did all the things, retraced my steps because I had made another stop, did everything, put the calls in, all of that, but nothing. How do you think I started feeling about that? Anybody want? How would you feel? Ask yourself that question. I didn't know I was working on today's lesson at the time, by the way. Okay? And it was really tough. I wasn't going to say anything to anybody, and then I had to tell Anna because, it wasn't right the way I was working it. It just wasn't right, and I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't having compassion for myself. That's what the bottom line is. We don't need to get into the nitty-gritty. And Anna just said it, and she put it into perspective for me. She said, maybe there's somebody out there that really, really needed to have that money. And you provided it for them. And I go, wow, yeah. I can work with that. And that's how I worked with that to come along to not browbeating myself. I still don't feel good about it. I don't have to feel good about it. There's no rule saying I have to feel good about what happened. But there is a rule saying if I want to move beyond it, I've got to resolve that within myself and not browbeat myself, give myself a break, and turn it over to, there's a positive outcome here. Whoever found it, God, they must have needed it. And I hope they make good use of it. Okay? And if you think it's easy to do, I've been doing this 43 years. It was not easy to get by that. But that's what we got to do, folks. We got to get by all of those things that we do that you could label anything you want. I call them bonehead experiences. You call them what you want. But we've got to learn to work our way through those and come to a place where we still have compassion within inside of ourselves. And what Anna presented to me, that idea of that person who found it must have really needed it, and God bless them for getting it, and hope they put it to good use. And so I could do that to get some peace. And it worked. However, I did not know until this morning that I was working on the talk this month when that happened. Now, I like it to happen other ways, but boy, did it ever get my attention. And I don't call it lost money. I call it a fee that I paid for a personal development lesson. Okay? Look at it like that. Because, one of my fees that I paid for my personal development lesson when I first got into it was, in those days, it was about 20 grand, and that was in 79, 80. So it's about $200,000 worth. That was a good personal development lesson. It cost me a lot, but did I ever learn? I don't want to pay that again to learn. So there's always those things, and sometimes there's a dollar value on them, and sometimes there's an emotional value, and more often than not, there's I got to get off my position value, because we get pretty much centered and stuck in our positions, and we all need to get off our positions to learn and grow. How it's going to work, I don't know, but I can tell you that it does work. So we've got to stop that self-destructive, self-critical, negative thinking about self. Because think about it, who would want to live with someone like the way we treated ourselves if they were treating us like that? The question is, would you live with yourself if you treated yourself that way? And the answer is no. So what are you going to do about it? Well, I want to live with myself, so we got to learn that compassion. So let's move it on now. It's not just about what you say or what you do for people. It's always about how you feel about what you're saying and what you're doing. Okay? You could do all these things because it's the right thing to do, but if you feel resentful or negative, then you really don't have compassion for yourself or for compassion for the person that you're dealing with. My brother Bob did 255 days in the foothills, and now he's in a care facility doing really well. And other than the days I was not allowed to go because of COVID, which are about 30, and about 8 or 10 days during Santa season a couple of years back, I went every day. And one day Bob said to me, he says, you don't have to come every day. It's okay, because I know you're really busy. And you know what I said to him? I said, no, I have to come every day, Bob. He said, why? I said, it's not for you. It's for me. I have to come every day. I have to do that for me. Because that's how I was treating myself compassionately, is because I had to do that for me, to go there and be for him. Whether he needed it or not, I needed it. And, of course, he's the benefactor of it, okay? Do you see how that works? Because it was genuine concern and caring, because we had a lot of years that we were not close. And I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and 4 are already dead, and it was all tragedy, absolute tragic. And Bob's the last one I got. And it's not supposed to work that way, is it, if you're the oldest? So it's a different level of compassion. And now I'm going through the same thing again with my friend of 63 years, where we had been in the hospital, and Anna had helped him and took him to his appointments. I looked after his affairs, and we got him to a point where he was doing well, and then poof, he really cratered, and we got to get him into a care facility because we can't give him the care. that he needs. And to go through the process with that, with him and with us ourselves, we have to have compassion on ourselves for what we've done and to recognize we can't give him what he needs anymore, and to have the compassion and sense to be able to take it to the next step and be there to support him while he's doing that. Easy to say, eh? But very interesting. And those are just ways that I experience compassion in my own journey in my own life. And then we also have another one. We got 3 different people in 3 different care facilities, and that's my auntie. And when auntie goes, I'm top of the food chain on that side of the family. I'm the old guy. So that's kind of a interesting scenario to go through mentally too. But it's the compassion, you see. So keep that in mind when you're doing things. Next thing, and the last idea here is, you got to ask yourself, what's your main driving or motivating factor in your life? Boil it down to one thing. And a lot of time we have our annual intention, or we have our vision or mission for ourselves. And what's the one thing that drives you? Because the one thing that drives you is going to give you all that opportunity that you need to be compassionate for yourself and to be compassionate for others. Mine hasn't changed. When I set it in motion in 1979 in December, I'm on the same mission and the same intention and the same vision today that I was then. Because I was lost and I said, God, if there's a way, if there is a God, and if there is a way I could get my life back, I will commit my life to service. Because I was bad. It was bad. It was gone. I was just about done. And lo and behold, I got directed to this teaching and philosophy, and I went into service. So I went back and finished teaching at SAIT and got my ministerial papers, and I went in to be a minister for the rest of my life in a church or a center. That's what I thought I was going to do. And that's what I was doing until I went through change and a burnout. And I'm going, this is where I had a real problem with making this commitment to service over the years. Because God didn't do it the way I thought it should have been done. I thought I was on the track to do that way the rest of my life. I didn't know that that's not the way I was going to do it. I did not know that I was going to be a part-time ministry, that I was going back to SAIT for another 22 years. I did not know I was going to be a Santa. And a good one, too, because I got a good Mrs. Claus. If you don't have a Mrs. Claus, then you're not as good because you got a lost clause. It's not up to me to define and say how I'm going to be of service. My job is to show up, shut up, do it, and bring the compassion there. So I decided that when I got the problem with this, I realized that, well, being a professor is being of service. You would not believe the students I have still from the early 80s that I'm in contact with that just are grateful for what I gave them. And they always remembered it because they said, the way you taught was really different than the way the other people do, because your stories were really different. Yeah, I told them some good accounting stories from the old days. Okay? So I did not know that I was going to be a Santa. I want to talk about an opportunity to have compassion for people and be of service. You would not know what that feels like when you're doing the party with Mrs. Claus for the fetal alcohol adoptive parents support group for fetal alcohol syndrome kids. And we're not talking little guys, we're talking big guys, older guys, in their teens and late development ages. And to be able to go there and to be in that consciousness of compassion and of service, and to be able to be plugged into spirit and do the right things and say the right things to get through to each of them, because they're all a little bit different, if you want to know what I mean. They do it differently. And what a joy that was for us to be able to do that. But that's compassion. And then compassion for, here now I've finished work, and what am I doing? Well, I'm being of service to my aunt and my brother and my friend. And that's where it comes in, okay? And compassion to myself because I got my whole hobby charted out from May till the end of October. My hiking, my mountains. I love it. So, folks, the best thing that we can do for ourselves is move in to what's our intention for our life, have compassion for ourselves, and see how it happens in all the small ways and big ways already. It's already there. We just need to stop and acknowledge and get in touch with that feeling as we're doing these things and be more aware of it. Sometimes we don't need to do nothing other than just be more aware of what we are and what we're doing. And so I'll leave you with a quote that I come across here. And I'm going to read this quote, and Anthony, I'll ask you to take us into meditation right after the quote here. And the quote is, remember, faith and fear both demand you believe in something you cannot see. You choose.
I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. There is nothing that I need to say. There is nothing that I need to change. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. And there is nothing that I need to do. There is nothing that I need to prove. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am.
As we go within to that secret place of the Most High, we do know and so that this one eternal life that is forever giving of itself is God's life, our life, right here and right now. So as we go into a state of prayer meditation, let us know that compassion motivates us to alleviate the suffering of others, to honor and respect all life, and to treat everyone with justice, fairness, and respect. To treat others both as we wish to be treated and as they wish to be treated. That is our mandate for compassion. And that compassion begins at home. So we'll go into the silence, and I want you to hold and support yourself in a vision of love, life, and light, and seeing yourself as whole, perfect, and complete at all times and in all ways. than ever, compassionate action in all sectors and area of life is required for our future survival and the welfare of all creation. For we're all the same. We all share this one life, and we all express it and experience it differently in our own unique ways. And we're all blessed with this spiritual presence. So let us claim it for ourselves and accept it for ourselves and know that we are an expression of the Most High, and we know that God is good, God is great, so am I, and so it is.
I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. And there is nothing that I need to say. There is nothing that I need to change. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. And there is nothing that I need to do. There is nothing that I need to prove. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Just as I am.
And just before I turn it back over to Bob, I wanted to mention one more thing. Take this and Google it. It's called the Charter for Compassion. There's a worldwide organization with a lot of very prominent people, and their mandate is to put forward this Charter for Compassion. It is absolutely excellent. That's why I mentioned it. Worth looking at. Thank you.